everybody, welcome to Psychology Flipped. This is Mrs. Clemens, and as always, remember, keep calm, study psychology. Alrighty guys, so this is our third and final portion of our Thrill a Minute video series on stress and conflict. And so this time you may notice that the animation has changed, and that's because our topic has changed a little bit. Now we're not stressing, baby, we're coping with the stress. We're trying to. All right, so let's talk about this. So our heading for this is coping with stress. I've actually seen this in places like as a paper, like on a wall, and I just think it's hilarious. Every time I've done this as a PowerPoint, I've always had to explain it to the students, and well, some students that don't really get that it's a joke, because you shouldn't bang your head until you're unconscious. That's just cray-cray. All right. Also, I love this. I'm sorry, but hey, you get to listen to me. So, haha. So I like this. Like, how long, Beatrice? How long must we play these games together? You know, because, Beatrice here is just, ignoring him, and sadly he's in denial. Beatrice doesn't love him. All right, so obviously we'll be talking about denial. So some psychological coping strategies. This kind of goes along with denial with our hippo lady who's saying she's fine with her weight because it goes well with her height. All right, so the first one is denial. Now, we're going to talk about these again when we get into personality, but this is a good introduction of them. So denial, the event's not really a stressor. It's not really going to happen. It's not really, it's not really there. So I always like to tell the story of this one student that I had that was failing all of her classes, and she was planning for graduation, and she just really was like, she bought her dress and she bought her cake and everything, and I was like, hun, like, you're spending a lot of money. You're not gonna probably be graduating. And she said, no, I'm graduating. And I was like, but I don't understand, because you're failing all your classes. Like, how are you graduating? I am. And she didn't. People also are in denial about some of the things they wear. Come on, ladies. Be respectful. Self-respect. Intellectualization, when you sort of watch from an emotionally detached standpoint. Now, this is something that's really common with doctors and, people that handle emergencies, that you can't sit there and be like, oh my God, that's a kid that's hurt, or oh my God, the guy's intestines are on the ground. Like, you have to detach yourself so that you can handle the situation, and we do that sometimes. Cognitive preparation. Now, this is something we talked about when we were talking about the Navy SEALs, how you have to rehearse things. And this is one of the things that I do to help my kids review for the regents, that we're constantly rehearsing over and over again, trying to get ready. Oh, these are the kinds of things you're going to see on the regents. This is how to react if you get this kind of essay. And that's a really positive thing to do. Modifying physical reactions to... All right, so modifying physical reactions to stress. Custodian Tom just came to visit us. So anyway, we need to modify some of those so that we're not having a heart attack and dying, because that's not fun. Drugs. There are, definitely people that have anxiety. They take, or, depression or whatever. They take different prescription drugs to deal with that. But a lot of times people self-medicate, and whether it's through alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, whatever it is that they're using, harder core drugs. People do that all the time, and that's not necessarily, actually, it's really not a good thing. Relaxation, that's really good. It helps to relax your muscles, helps to relax your body and your mind. Biofeedback, and that's what this is a picture of, where you're kind of keeping track of your blood pressure or your tension or whatever, and so you kind of then have to do things like, oh my gosh, my heartbeat's racing, I better do something to decrease my stress. Behavioral coping strategies. So definitely sometimes we try to control our stressful situations by withdrawing or escaping. The kids that you see doodling in class, or people that will just, their parents are fighting and they'll put their music on so that they can just kind of escape. Problem solving, where you're trying to actually sit there and say, all right, I have a paper due tomorrow. How am I going to make that happen? Exercise. Oh my gosh, it's so important. They've shown time and time again how it helps burn off stress hormones. It makes you, it actually produces happy hormones, and so as a result, just physically you feel happier afterwards. And then there's professional help and support groups that can help you to deal with some of the issues that you might be having. And then there's training to be able to know how to deal with stressors. So that's why, the state mandates that we have a certain number of fire drills or different number of lockdown drills, so that we know, all right, this is what we're going to do if something happens, and we don't flip out. And then definitely improving your interpersonal skills. Learn how to deal with people better, as opposed to just trying to murder them whenever they annoy you. And I like this. Obviously, you're not writing this. I like this. So I guess a story here. And it says, a lecturer, when explaining stress management to an audience, raised a glass of water and asked, "How heavy is this glass of water?" And answers were called out, and obviously these are people using grams. Crazy. 20 to 500 grams. So the lecturer says, the absolute weight doesn't matter. It depends on how long you try to hold it. If you hold it for a minute, it's not a problem. If you hold it for an hour, you'll have an ache in your arm. If you hold it for a day, you'll have to call an ambulance. In each case, it's the same weight, but the longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. And he continues, he says, that's the way it is with stress management. If we carry our burdens all the time, sooner or later, as the burden becomes increasingly heavy, we won't be able to carry it on. As with the glass of water, you have to put it down for a while and rest before holding it again. And that's really important, guys. As we're going through and we're talking about some of these different disorders, and we talk about the power of our mind to cope with some of these stressors, that's why if something happens once, we're able to cope with it a lot better than if something's reoccurring. And that's why it is so important for you to get help, rather than letting things continue on and on and on. All right, folks, so that finishes us up for stress and conflict. Join us again next time when we talk a little personality.